Okay, live. Good to see everyone getting into the chat. Good to see everyone getting into the chat before I get here. Slightly delayed because of my physio appointment. But hello, who's busy in the chat? Luke and Fox and Justin and Loogie and Musical Aviator. Oh, we've gotten on to sushi pizza. That's fucked up. I mean, I'm particularly biased because I don't like sushi. But yes, doubly biased because those dickheads who were in the news. Hi, Miss Foxification, how are you? My sour sop nectar. It's not bad. As the package says, tastes like tropical pears and crisp apples. You know what tropical pears are? And if I look at the picture of the fruit on the bottle, it looks a bit like breadfruit. Custard apple looks a bit like custard apple, actually. Luke, hello from the Melbourne CBD. Hope you're enjoying your time with the family. Yes, and I hope everyone's well on this fine Tuesday evening. We find ourselves in. Oh God, the week's rolling along. Oh, what's it all about, hey? What's it all about? Does anyone recognize that movie line? That's a central line from a movie. I think the original was in the 60s or 70s, and there was a remake of it in the last 10 years. Loogie reporting from the American Midwest, where it's humid and miserable. Yeah, the summer is not being good to peeps in the northern hemisphere, basically. Yeah, it's a bit ugly. And hi, Noog. That's a good question, Miss Foxification. If Trump's Cartman and Boris's Butters, who's Scummo in South Park? I think they're all Cartman myself. But well, is there a religious zealot in South Park? I mean, personality-wise, I think Mr. Garrison, because he's just awful. Yeah, that would be my first impulse. Scummo is Mr. Garrison, but with weird religious zealotry. Yes, Fox, yeah, Europe's basically on fire. Apparently, there are bits of the Arctic that are literally on fire. Like terrible events are happening that suggest the effects of climate change are worse than the most pessimistic predictions from 10 years ago, which leaves the next 5 or 10 years as a very disturbing time. Milk my mantids. Hello. I'm fine. Hope you're on. Yes, Justin, that's why I named the live stream over. Trump just blatantly lying to a gathering where actual 9/11 first responders were there. Trump just lying, saying he was there helping. It's like everyone knows that's a lie. The contempt he has for people is truly mind-boggling. Like he's such a vile, objectionable piece of garbage. It's wow. Even I mean, I'm usually not lost for words, but there are times when even I have trouble articulating just how vile and disgusting Trump is. Just the worst. No, that 12 to 18 years, that's the most optimistic forecast. Radical action undertaken inside of 12 to 18 years might fend off disaster. Maybe I'm just pessimistic, but it seems to me by far the most likely outcome is absolutely disastrous. The death of millions of brown and black people before anyone does anything. And by that stage, it will be far too late and the change will just be accelerating. So you will get the total collapse of the world economy. And yeah, fucking Mad Max Fury Road scenario. Hey, Gecko, how are you? Coming in just when I'm being super fatalistic. Super fatalistic, as I want to go Mary Poppins there, super fatalistic expialidocious. Yeah, I think the thing that probably freaks out the people who actually know, the scientists who are looking at what's happening with climate change and wishing people would pay attention. I think one of the things that freaks them out is cascading disasters, like melting of permafrost, releasing methane into the atmosphere that's been contained for millennia, and just a horrible negative feedback cycle where everything just cascades out of control. I think you get a lot of people working with climate scientists who are clinically depressed. I found this, I don't know if I've ever opened these on a live stream before, but I was cleaning up around my desk and I found some mail. I got a bunch of these from the weird person. He opens these with tweezers. Yes, because there's a Mars bar wrapper and some supermarket thing. Still cracks me up. I'm not at all sure what this person gets out of spending $1 to send me weird things. But hey, good on them, I say. What's this? Is this a letter or just more weird stuff? Let's open these like with tweezers. Nope, it's a lot of supermarket dockets. Cool. Okay. One more. Hi, Safa. How you going? Ooh. Ooh, this one's a letter. This one's a letter. Oh, my God. Voice of the Martyrs. Who thinks it's going to be hate mail? I think it's going to be hate mail. Okay, that's just got some weird numbers on it, which is probably like from some Russian signal station or something. But this one's got words on it. Ooh. Oh, no, it's not hate mail. It's a religious thing. From my new friend, Linda Hott. Hott? But Linda is from the World Bible School. Also, the mailer is a live chat person, and I'm pretty sure I know who it is, but they'll just deny it if I say it, so I'll let it go. But yes, Linda says, greetings. Here's the introduction to the Master Series World Bible School, for which you registered or were referred by a friend or relative. Free study explores the love of God as shown as in His Word, the Bible. So I didn't actually get the booklet, so that's sad. All right, I thought that was going to be hate mail. That's mildly disappointing. But I have an actual real letter someone sent me a while ago. Oh, wait, there's one more weird religious thing. Another weird religious thing. Are we talking about the Yes, the possibility of frozen diseases being released by melting permafrost. That's a good one. The real truth. That's like, the real truth. That's like the World Series. Dear brethren, co-workers, and this month's subscribers. What about Sistren? Brethren and Sistren, editor of Real Truth. He wants me to send him money. That's not going to happen. That stuff, I cut down on sodium. It's good for you. I think you're probably right. Cutting down on sodium, good. There's Fox Acacia said there was a village that got sick because a carcass containing anthrax was unearthed by melting permafrost. That makes sense. Yeah, and flowed down into the village water supply. Yep. You are right, Justin. While we sit here worrying about climate change, a solar flare could wipe out all our electronics and communication, send us back to, at least on a communication level, send us back to pre-industrial age. Or, an asteroid kit is. Now, this one is a real letter that's come from England, and it actually came a while ago, and I kept, it's from my friend Phil. It's a real one. What's Phil got to say? This is one of the people I've actually met. Hope that it finds, well, since we hung out in Melbourne and London, drop a note, couple of purposes. Say hi, hope the YouTube thing's going well. Okay, departed from social media, that makes sense. Yes. Who wants a favour? Oh, wow. One of his old social media accounts got hacked and started spewing anti-Semitic BS. Oh, wow. It was only at the start of June Phil sent me this. That's weird. That's okay. I've got to help a friend out there who's actually in a couple of my videos. His social media account got hijacked and is spewing a bunch of anti-Semitic nonsense. And so he wants me to change the social media handle so he doesn't get linked to this anti-Semitic nonsense, which makes a lot of sense. Glad I finally opened that letter. That's actually important. Oh yeah, I heard that misfoxification. That there was another near miss with an asteroid. 73,000 kilometers on a cosmic scale. That's a hair's breadth miss. It is cute getting a letter, isn't it, Safa? Rather, Phil didn't send this on social media, sent me an actual letter, which is nice. I'll have to send him one back. That's good. We're trying to give Trump incurable plague. That reminds me of two things. There was a movie that came out right at the height of the AIDS epidemic, the latter stages of the AIDS epidemic. And it was called Totally Fucked Up. And it was this really aggressive gay agitprop where one of the two leads was into violent revolution, basically. And one of his plans to get actual, as when Bush was president, Bush #1 was president, one of his actual plans to get government action to address the AIDS crisis was to inject Bush with a syringe of infected blood. And he said, we'd get a cure pretty damn quick then. Again, very extreme agitprop. Dr. Obama, the live stream's origin, Trump did a press conference where there were actual 9/11 first responders, and he just blathered these complete fucking lies about he was at ground zero on 9/11 helping out. Like, it's weird. It's just like it's a lie, an easily provable lie. Everyone knows it's a lie, and he must know everyone knows it's a lie, and he does it anyway. Like, fucking hell. So Australia is pretty good with STI detection these days. The other thing you reminded me of, talking about wishing people to be infected with particular things, there's this speculative fiction novel I read probably a few years ago now. It's called After the Deluge. And it's after two things have happened. The majority of the world's been flooded by climate change, although the weather's okay. But also there was like a plague-like disease outbreak that to have resistance to it, you had to have THC in your system. So it's yeah, a bit of hippie wish fulfillment there. If you smoke weed, you survived. And hello, clapping for chlamydia and megaleech. Two good points, Kaiju. How could Trump have been with the first responders when he's previously said he was in New Jersey watching Muslims cheer, which has also been proven to be a lie? And yes, I have a good question. If Trump acted normal and didn't lie, would he lose in 2020? I don't know. I think it's past the point where Trump's capable of acting normal. He's been rewarded so much for behaving totally irrationally and totally obnoxiously. I think he's basically completely unhinged from reality, and he's never coming back to reality ever. He's never coming back to reality. It's just, yeah, the unreality has treated him so well that he's just, yeah, no, he's just off with the pixies. Plus, not even joking, I think he's suffered brain injury. Just, whether he has some early onset dementia or he's actually suffered mini strokes which have caused brain injury. I'm not trying to be funny. I'm literally just looking at his behavior and his speech patterns, and he is not all there. I think that's a reasonably calm and balanced thing to say. Trump is not all there. He absolutely has suffered some brain injury. Safra, he's not just slurring his words, he's jumbling his words. He's making words up. Like, he can't say basic words. And he can't form a sentence. He when he speaks, his sentences just lose their way. They start saying something, and then there's just ridiculous word salad vomits out of him, and it's just this mishmash of individual words that don't actually make any sense in a sentence. See, Safa, people joke about Kafefe, but when he tweeted that, I reckon there was a thing. I reckon he was actually having a minor stroke in his bed, that he hit random keys on a tweet and then hit send. I think that was actually an episode. Yeah, not trying to be funny, not trying to belittle Trump, just looking at things in a calm and reasoned way. Yeah, with Trump, shit's all fucked up, yo. That's the weird thing. This is the one thing I wish I knew is how did the White House staff react at him? Because that Covfefe tweet came out in some absurd hour of the morning. Seeing if I can find what time. Okay, so that was May 2018. Oh, so I found it. Oh, Christ, what the fuck is happening there? Oh, fuck off. Honestly, websites. Okay. No, I'm trying to find, yeah, 12:06 a.m. So how did I honestly wonder how did the White House staff react? We're just after midnight. He fucking clearly has an episode. Like, did they knock on the bedroom door? Did they force their way in? I mean, if I worked there, I would have been at least 50-50 expecting to see him passed out unconscious on the floor, having suffered a stroke. Um, so it is, yeah, I do really wonder about how the White House staff reacted. Ms. Fox, you think we might see impeachment if he's re-elected? We might. But again, it is always important to remember impeachment is a political process, not a legal one. So it will all come to nothing if Democrats don't have a majority in both the Congress and the Senate, and the odds are against that. Justin, do I think Trump knows about Area 51? There's nothing in Area 51. Area 51 is just a bizarre fallacy, just one of those weird urban legends that caught in and never amounted to anything. So, what impeachment means is Congress does the articles of impeachment first. And if a majority of Congress vote in favor of impeachment, then the vote goes to the Senate. And I'm not sure if a simple majority in Senate does it or if you need a two-thirds majority. I don't know. But it is the ultimate thing is if both it's basically both the Congress and the Senate saying the president, we believe the president is guilty of, I think the phrase is high crimes, and is not fit to hold office, and they can remove him from office. And as Robert Mueller made clear, when Trump's out of office, criminal prosecutions can start. He's okay. When do I think is the best point to impeach? About a year ago. I don't know. I've so ceased to try and predict what will have what effect. You get all these people going, "Oh, this will work in Trump's favor." Will it though? Will it? I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe it won't. Maybe impeaching him before the election's a good idea. Maybe it's a bad idea. I don't know. You see, and Safa, you raised a thing that I've always wondered: what are his absolute fruitcake supporters going to do when he's out of office? And I don't, not just if he's impeached, when he goes, because one way or another, he goes. I personally, my personal favourite would be if he got impeached. Okay, but say he loses the next presidential election. Are they going to accept it? He's not going to accept it. He's going to say, it's a fix. And that's the thing. His idiot supporters, they'll do something or nothing. I don't know. Again, the world's so weird, I've ceased trying to predict anything. But, say Trump wins the next election and just serves out a second term. There are people who would start arguing he shouldn't even leave at the end of a second term. Will they do anything? Probably not, but maybe they would. Who knows? And if he drops dead, which is reasonably likely, he's old, under a lot of stress, and clearly in very poor health, he could just drop dead at any second. Uh, how would his idiot base react to that? I don't know. Maybe they'd be all talk. Maybe they'd get really violent. I don't know. For a fact, if Trump just dropped dead, the conspiracies would instantly, irretrievably be he was poisoned. The Clintons poisoned him. The deep state poisoned him. The only question is, what will these fruitcakes do? Will they do nothing? Will they do something? Will they do something extreme? I don't fucking know, because I don't want to sound paranoid, but a lot of these fuckwits are heavily armed and are already committing acts of violence. And a lot of them have openly talked about violent insurrection. But will they do anything? I think most likely no, because they're all talk. But we've already seen, extreme right wingers do a succession of mass shootings. Fuck knows. No idea how bad it would be. Yeah, you're right, Miss Fox. Occasion wouldn't be hard to rile them up. I mean, they're riled up already. It's just the thing, would they do anything? I don't know. There are definitely increasingly violent right-wing groups. I mean, you get this ridiculousness, like with what's his name, the Zodiac killer, Ted Cruz, saying, "I'm going to introduce the bill to declare Antifa a terrorist organization." I was going, why? What? There's not even such an organization as Antifa. It's like a creed, not an organization. Nobody belongs to Antifa. Saying Antifa is a terrorist organization is beyond stupid. But to pretend Antifa was an actual organization with a hierarchy and membership and whatnot, you're going to call them, who've never killed anyone, a terrorist organization, and not the whole slew of violent right-wing groups that actually do have a hierarchy, do have a membership, do have a code, and are responsible for violence and murders. It's like, what in fuck's name is going on? It's just, the world is so fucking stupid at the moment. Well, that's a good summary, Musical Aviator. Don't know if Pence is older than Trump, but I know Count Dooku's older than Palpatine. I want to look it up now. Pence age 60. Oh, I think he's quite a bit younger than Trump. Trump age. Yeah, 73. Shit. Pence is way younger than Trump. Oh, and Biden's older than him, and Sanders is older than him. Okay. There you go. Little bit of trivia. No, yes, no, keep going with the Antifa Super Soldier program. That's still one of my favorite things, when the, comedy Twitter account, oh God, what's it called again? But the guy who's just like a joke Twitter account did a tweet, I don't know, it's like a year, 2 years ago, talking about how happy he's going to be, like on September 15th, when the Antifa super soldiers murder all the small business holders and parents in the town square. And it created this whole scene. That's it. No, Craig T. Nelson. I knew it was something to do with Coach, because the actor Craig T. Nelson played the character Coach. Craig T. Nelson. Yeah. And it created this whole thing with people saying it was real. And I'm just like, the world's just too stupid. You cannot say anything too stupid for people to believe, because there's people who just believe the dumbest shit going. I did see that. Why did I laugh? Safra, I saw that, yes, it appears that Putin's having one of his rivals in prison poisoned in his age-old way of dealing with anyone who threatens him. Don't know why I laughed when I said I knew that one. Not really funny, with scary dude killing people. Wait, what's this one? Just making sure I didn't forget something in this mail. Oh no, that's that one. Okay. It's all going in recycling. Got to keep Phil's letter because I got to do that thing for him. Yes, if Russia is a false democracy, Putin's made a mockery of the idea of democracy in Russia. But mind you, he has enormous support from the scary nationalists. And Russian nationalists are pretty goddamn scary. I'm just finding it. There's all my other junk mail here. Don't throw it out. Just keep the hate mail, because the hate mail's funny. Yep, there we go. Probably keep that, because I've got to send something back to him. What was in this one? There's something heavy in this one. All right, yes, a phone thingy. Is there any more mail? Any more of my mail under here? All right, let's try all this out. So if you think it'd be a civil war if Putin gives up power, I don't know. They might be able to have a peaceful transition in Russia. Who knows? Yes. I don't think I ever finished reading this hate mail. Look how fucking closely typed this crazy, crazy hate mail is. And there's, oh my God, there's just, I love the bits where it's bold capitals. There are all these bits in here that are bold capitals. Wait, what's on this one? This is another one. God, this is even smaller print. I think this one was intended to be a letter that sent, because puts a link to my this is a friend of video dude. I actually know who this is, but it's just, these letters are crazy. They're absolutely crazy. And I have that from a qualified professional. But no, that's not really someone pretending. That's someone who's lost their grip. I know you want me to read it, don't you? You want to. Oh my God, it's just, no, these aren't recent letters. These, I don't know, these are like 6 months or a year ago. I just kept them here. These are, I've got to say, look, it's one thing to disagree with someone. And it's like all these freaky little racist, misogynist, homophobic, ultra right wing dickheads. It's like, okay, I disagree with them on the policy, but when they say shit that's just disturbingly disconnected from reality, and they like say things and that words literally mean the opposite of what they're saying. Like all those, I mean, to a slightly less freaky degree, all those right-wing dickheads who do this, and they're obsessed with saying things like logic and rationality and whatnot. And you look at their arguments, and there's no logic, there's no rationality. Their arguments are all emotional. They're riddled with magical thinking. And what's become increasingly hilarious, there's a trend in these ones because this whole the rational right wing, a lot of them started off in, they were in the atheist camp and they, just made you feel bad for being an atheist because they were such assholes. But they're starting to convert to Christianity because they've gotten so wedded to the anti-feminist and ideology, the homophobic ideology, the anti-progressive ideology, the anti-Muslim ideology, that they're left like the only people left who agree with them are Christian evangelical hypocrites. And this lot have started to convert to Christianity. And it's like, I mean, it's not all of them, but I know it's more than one of them. One of these lunatics who's done attack videos on me, and it's just like, it's so fucking weird. They're they've moved so far into their hate zone that the only thing they can see is I want someone who hates the same people that I hate. And it's these hypocritical Christian evangelicals who agree with them. And they're joining the Christian evangelicals. That's in misclassification. It's like atheist skeptics who are now siding with evangelical Christians. It's weird as fuck. Actually, musical aviator, I think you're on the roll there. The red pill crowd who became Jordan Peterson worshippers, and he's a fundamentalist Christian, so deeply into religious mysticism. I think he's the one who's gatewaying them into Christianity. It's so fucking weird. Oh, Dr. Obama. Oh my God, was that Hanson, right? Proposed an immigration plebiscite. I saw one of the fucking shit rag web pages like Channel 7 also be, should we have an immigration plebiscite? It's like, get fucked, you fucking vermin. Honestly. Hi, Sharon. You come in just as I'm having a real spray, as the saying goes. But I have to admit, that's one that's weirding me out. Seeing these people who originally festered in the skeptic and atheist community swinging around into religious fundamentalism. Fucking hell, eh? So for my drinking lemonade, I am drinking soursop nectar with lemonade. Yes, it's like a fruity lemonade. It's quite good. It's Justin, you're doing your foreign bank account report. Yeah. That is other new for the US Financial Crimes Enforcement Bureau. Oh, God, I used to have to read up on that stuff. I've worked for banks before on security projects, and it's like, damn. It's, yeah, the whole thing about the reporting is required on banks and accounts gets a bit weird. So Ms. Fox question, dangerous mix for a counterculture. Stomping them on security is harder when they have religious support. Yes, yes, and that's weird. I mean, and the it's so weird to see these people like these ones. The only one weirder than these mob who slimed their way out of the atheist skeptic cesspit and siding with Christians is when you get Zionist Jewish people who are like Zionist zealots who join up with neo-Nazis just because they both hate Muslims and they both hate left-wingers. And it's like it was a little Avi Yemeni in Australia. It's like he's always siding with these fucking neo-Nazis. It's like, do you not know how much they hate you? It's so weird. It's like being so consumed with your hatred for other groups that you side with people who literally want you exterminated. It's absolutely bizarre. Sharon, no alcohol. No, this is just soursop nectar. This is something I got on speculation when I was at Costco. It looked interesting. This was to use as a mixer with alcoholic beverages. We're a long way off summer, but that seems like a good summer thing. That and a lot of ice and rum. I reckon if you're going to go tropical, it's probably rum. Yeah, this would probably go really well with rum. Dr. Obama, you're going to a Labor meeting on Monday. Your member's front bencher Mark Butler. Is there anything you'd like me to say? Yeah, could you stick a cattle prod up Albanese's ass and you get him to actually behave like he's in the fucking Labor Party and not in the Liberal Party? That would be my first thing. I think Labor's going to be forced into action in the coming years because Scummo and crew seem like they're going to go hard with some really fucking evil industrial relations law. And yeah, on the whole religious freedom thing, it ought to be hysterical seeing what they do with that, tie themselves in knots to be both free speech and protect religion and to not have their base lose their fucking minds when they realize any protection for Christians under law would have to be extended to like radical Muslims as well. It's just like they're just such fucking idiots. It does my head in, quite honestly. It's like they're making their own lives really difficult. And I can't work out. Dean Natali saying the Greens are the only valid opposition right now. Yeah, the Greens shit me, though. The Greens are just like super smug and have their own problems. But they're just super smug because they're never going they're never going to have to implement any policies they talk. And probably most Greens policies I agree with. But there's a lot of issues with the Green Party that I'm not on board with, quite honestly. So, yeah. I guess I don't expend a huge amount of energy either way on the Greens. I don't, spend a lot of time hating on them. But I certainly don't spend, any or much time cheerleading for them. Like I said, I agree with probably the majority of their policies. It's just the Greens party I have some issue with. Just, you're saying the ACT has Labor and Green working in coalition. I can think of worse things. Current federal government, that's a worse thing. Yeah, and look, maybe we need a future where it isn't just major parties who always win elections, but people have to form a coalition, and therefore, there has to be give and take in legislation because no one party dominates to the extent they can form a government on their own. Maybe that would be better. I mean, look at how well Julia Gillard did leading a minority government. She wasn't actually in coalition with the Greens, but did rely on the Greens to stay in government. And she achieved more leading a minority government than Tony Abbott achieved in majority government. There's something to that misfoxification. It may be harder to achieve long-term project such as wind farm, solar, and desal when there's no majority. Well, there's questions over whether desal's even a good idea. There are some very negative impacts from desalination projects, but I don't know. A Labor Greens coalition should be able to move on various alternative energy programs. Fox, Greens and Labor weren't in coalition, but the Greens did give their support to the minority Labor government led by Gillard. And that's why the emissions trading scheme went in. The Greens said they would only support Labor if they put in the carbon tax as opposed to an emission trading scheme. Which honestly was, a pretty good policy. That is a good point, Ms. Foxification. Contentious doesn't mean wrong, doesn't mean unnecessary. Like, yes, building a dam definitely has some downsides, but may be necessary. Dr. Obama, did I hear Queensland Greens did a preference deal with Queensland LNP? No, I didn't hear that. But again, one can overblow this concept of preference deals. I've seen politicians of all persuasions try to make an enormous deal out of preference deals. And sometimes it's quite valid, and other times it's very much a storm in a teacup, and people just flinging shit around trying to score political points. Yeah, I'm not that sold on getting my knickers in a knot over someone's preference deal, because I mean, there's preference deals and there's preference deals, and when it's your first preference, that's usually significant. But sometimes when people, and I've literally seen all the parties throw shit at each other over this. Yeah, sometimes it's been like the fifth and sixth preference. They've had a huge fucking drama over it. Fox Fake, time for a cocktail. Make a hot buttered rum if you had the ingredients. Rum. I've got my Kraken dark rum and my Captain Morgan spiced rum up there, but I don't want a hot drink. I might make a cocktail. We're going to make, what would be a topical cocktail to make? Oh, wait, there was one I was trying to recreate, and I didn't quite get it right. Trying to remember what was in it. Place where I went out on Saturday night. They had a cocktail. I think they just called it a flannelette shirt. It was. It had cognac, amaro, absinthe, and something else. And the only ones I had cognac and I had absinthe, and I was going to approximate the other ones. Hey, Lemonhead, how you going? The Taipan. What was in a Taipan again? I do remember us doing that because there was a cocktail that was called a rattlesnake or something. Here, hang on a sec. I'm going to be back in a second. I'm just going to grab something. I'll be back. Oh. Yes. Oh. I'm back. Did Chuck behave? I was looking for a cocktail leaflet and I couldn't find it, but that's okay. No, I haven't even been keeping up on Boris and Brexit. Yeah, his Brexit chief wants to scrap workers' rights. Of course they do. Fucking England's going down the toilet. England is absolutely going down the toilet. Mm. But yeah, no, the drink, the flannel shirt, the one I was trying to remember was Disaronno. And I don't have Disaronno. That's uh, it's a nut-based one, like an almond-based one. Oh, yeah, okay, almond extract or marzipan, hazelnut coffee, saying amaretto. What can be used instead of amaretto? Almond taste. Yeah, see, I don't have anything almond-based. I had Disaronno at one point. In fact, I don't have any nut-based ones. Sometimes you get hazelnut-based things. Similar liquors to Disaronno. Amaretto. What is this amaretto? Luxardo, that's another one. Tequila. What is Disaronno whiskey? No, fuck off. You're trying to make me sign in. No. Amaretto liqueurs. Dr. Booze. What's the best brand of amaretto? No. No, see, I don't have anything that I can substitute. I tried just randomly. I tried substituting Jägermeister, and it's like nothing like it. Misroxication, Frangelico wouldn't be 100 miles off the mark, uh, but I don't have Frangelico either. Sorry, Kaji, I'm coming up with homebrew cocktails. You had a homebrew spell for a D&D game. I like that. Loogie, you have a hot pocket on me. Hot pockets aren't really a big thing in Australia. There's little pizza pocket things. You can get them in the supermarket. They're just not very big in Australia. I had a Dr. Oetker pizza for lunch, which is supermarket pizza. 4 cheese pizza, and I put bacon on it and then some extra cheese. And that was a mixed one, so I think it's in total 7 or 8 different cheeses on the pizza, which is pretty good. Who's better, Alba or Latham? A festering sore on my scrotum is better than Latham. Latham is fucking garbage. Alba or Kim Biggs. I always thought Alba was like old school lefty. Like Keating hated him because he was an old school lefty. But he has been so fucking shit as opposition leader. Absolute garbage. So we got Kaji's magic spell. It's a magical hat. You throw a hat, it's a casting item, create illusory giant hats, and your party hides under giant hats. I'm not sure, like, technically you'd be hiding under giant hats, but giant hats seem like they would attract a lot of attention. I don't know. So the Taipan cocktail, I'm trying to remember, okay, if I look up a rattlesnake cocktail, okay, that's a rye. Oh, because it's got absinthe and egg white. Okay. All right. So it's okay. A rattlesnake is a whiskey sour with absinthe in it. And a whiskey sour is one of my favorite cocktails. Yeah, it's like whiskey, lemon juice, absinthe, simple syrup, egg white. Yeah, it's a whiskey sour with absinthe in it. Safa, what about Crown Casino? What about Crown Casino? How did we get onto Crown Casino? Anyway, I'm trying to. Can I think of a themed one, or will I just make an angry's bad idea, or oh wait, I saw something. Where's my phone? I saw one the other day that sounded good, and wanted to try making it. And I saved a screenshot of it. I have to look at my photos. Here it is. Gooseberry sour. It was gin and a raspberry syrup and lemon juice and sugar syrup and egg white. That's a really simple one. And I've got components I could make that with. I might save that for the weekend. Mrs. Angry likes gin. And I might make it for the weekend. Wonder what I get if I just say best cocktail. What are the best cocktails? Cocktail bars. The 50 most popular cocktails in the world. Popular does not equal best, in my opinion. But what are we saying? Oh, fucking hell. A white Russian. That's just like Big Lebowski when he called it a Caucasian. That always made me off. Bellini is just a champagne cocktail. No, Irish coffee. Geez, these are all shit. Gin Mule, Long Island iced tea, a Vespa. This is one I want to get the bloody Brazilian spirit, cachaça, which is a type of brandy. Fox, now, the Young Angries, for those who don't know, the Young Angries, my offspring, adults, they're 19 and 21. But Dronto, young Mr. Angry drinks cider sometimes. Occasionally when I'm making cocktails, I said, "Do you want me to make one?" They never seem to. But yeah, a painkiller. Oh wow, that's got my actual glass in the picture. That's rum, cream of coconut, pineapple juice, and orange juice. That's just rum and fruit juices. I don't have any coconut, so. So, sorry, Dr. Obama, you were asking, do I think a proper curability agreement leadership transition? I'm not even sure what you mean by that. I'm sure that's a thing, and I can't remember what it is. A painkiller, a bee's knees, gin, lemon, nani. Originally invented to mask counterfeit bathtub gin. Ramos gin fizz, that's really had a bramble I like. You have berry with gin and black. I don't have any blackcurrant liqueur though. Vodka martini, hanky panky, vermouth and Fernet Branca. I have some Fernet Branca there, which is very strong flavour. Talking about a curability agreement when PM willingly sits down, hands over leadership. Look, if it happens, but Scummo's not going anywhere. He's all over shit at the moment. Hanky Panky does sound dirty, doesn't it? It's a bit of a dirty drink. Vermouth and Fernet Branca. Look, you're in a Warhammer game. You set players on fire. And you had a big combo if you can put out a flaming man with piss. I like it. That's proper role playing. That's creative problem solving in role playing. Our cohort is on fire. Can we put them out by pissing on them? I like it. That's a good question, Justin. If the UK has some massive turmoil and breakup because of Brexit, could it lead to an Australian public? It honestly could. It honestly could. Paloma's a cocktail. Sorry, a tequila cocktail. Grapefruit, okay. Cosmopolitan, no fuck off. Sidecar is one of my favorite. It's such a classic. Sidecar is just like brandy, Cointreau, and lemon juice. Really nice. And you can mix it. Instead of brandy, you could have cognac. Instead of Cointreau, you could have triple sec or another orange flavored liqueur. It's a good one, though. You're absolutely right, Safa. Northern Ireland makes Brexit really difficult. French 75, Vicaret. It's like a Manhattan. It's brandy, whiskey, vermouth, Benedictine, Angostura, and bitters. Aviation. That's just a gin one. I'm not that sold on gin. Mrs. Angry likes gin. I'm not that sold on gin. Pina colada, amaretto sour. I don't have any amaretto. Pisco sour. Oh, that's a good one. I've got pisco. Americano. So it's Campari, vermouth, and soda. I don't want to have a soda water. A gimlet. This is Jim and lime. Mai Tai, Boulevardier. Ugh, Negronis. Fucking hate Negronis. Negronis are really popular, and I don't like them. Not trying to be difficult. They're just too bitter for me. Gin fizz, dark and stormy. Our corpse reviver. Cognac, Calvados, brandy, and vermouth. Or number two is gin, lemon juice, Cointreau, Lillet Blanc, and absinthe. I just love corpse reviver as a name, honestly. Penicillin, Bloody Mary, Mojito, Sazerac. I'm a fan of, which is basically just an old fashioned with absinthe. Aperol Spritz, Margarita, Espresso Martini, Dry Martini, Manhattan, Daiquiri, Whiskey Sour's number 3 on their list. That's one of my favourites. Negroni's number 2. I fucking hate Negronis. Oh, and they're saying the old-fashioned. Old-fashioned is, it's basically whiskey with a little bit of sweetener into it. Timothy, do I have Mario Kart for the Switch? I do not. In fact, I don't really have ready access to a Switch. We have a Switch in the house, and young Miss Angry has it in her room all the time. She's always playing online stuff with her friends. So I never get to see the Switch anymore. It's ridiculous. Like if I wanted to play a Switch, I'd probably have to buy another one. She has, and she paid for it. Like, well, I'm not saying it's like some conspiracy. She paid for the Switch, and it's in her room almost all the time. So I don't ever get to play the Switch. Yeah, fair enough. Oh my God. Yes, misfoxication, Boris. And so all that's going to happen is a no deal Brexit. Johnson is a fucking tool. And it's, Jesus, it's going to destroying like no trade things. So did Dubbo have cocktails when I was younger? I'm going to say no. I didn't drink alcohol when I was living in Dubbo. Yeah, no, I'm going to shit all over my hometown. I think even now they probably don't have anyone who can make decent cocktails there. It's just beer, booze. Um, Maybe I get proven wrong, but hey, I'm old-fashioned. Maybe a corpse reviver. So the variants of corpse reviver, one's cognac, apple brandy, brandy vermouth, and one's gin, lemon, Cointreau, Lillet Blanc, and absinthe. I think I'll make a corpse reviver. I don't think I even have to shake that one. There's nothing very outlandish in it. I'll just stir it, save myself the trouble of shaking it. There's my tiki glass is just there. Just a sec. I'm just gonna get it. Okay, so corpse reviver number 2. So gin, Cointreau, Lillet Blanc, and absinthe. Okay, where's the ingredients? Gin. A giant Costco bottle of gin. Cointreau. Cointreau. Lillet Blanc. What's my Lillet Blanc? Absinthe. Okay, calm down. And lemon. Lemon juice. A little bit of lemon juice left. All right. Oh, I want a big block of ice. Big block of ice. Got my drink. Just again, very non-traditional. Purists might object to me doing this, but I'm not going to let a purist obsess over what I do. All right. So this ridiculously large bottle of gin. Timothy. Doom, various versions of Doom have been released for the Switch. I don't know. I got Doom for the PlayStation 4 and I couldn't get into it. Just the shooty, which I used to love, I just couldn't get into. I love those sort of open world games, like, you know, shooty stuff like Grand Theft Auto. And what else have I played in the last year or so? Mafia 3, Yakuza 0, all those games. I love them. All right, so Cointreau. That's the Lillet Blanc. Yeah, Smeagol Breath of the Wild was awesome. One of the greatest games ever. Like occasionally I feel like I want to play it again. But like I said, Young Miss Angry has the bloody Switch in her bedroom. So I'm going to play lemon juice. Where did I put my lemon juice? I swear I got the lemon juice out of the fridge. Oh, it's there. I'm looking forward to Borderlands 3. All right, lemon juice. I might actually put some of my soursop nectar in here. It's not traditional, but I'm not traditionalist. So yeah, I'm all hanging out for Borderlands 3. Put soursop nectar in there and stir that. No, you see, Rockstar hasn't paid tax for 10 years. All the big companies try to avoid tax. Put a bit of my blue absinthe on top. It's such a good color. All right, stop spinning. You just float the absinthe on top. It looks so cool. I'll show you. That look cool, just with the blue absinthe floating on top. I heard that stuff. The Rockstar had a virtual casino in GTA 5. Are they like breaking any rules? Pulling out, Looky. Smoke is in the chat. You hand roll your cigs. You hate it when you miss a stem and it pokes a hole in your paper. Oh, wow. So, Timothy, I should have a gaming channel. You got to caps me to death, Wedo. Oh, I'm so fucking lazy, though. I'm so fucking. There is so much stuff I have a bunch of good ideas that I should be doing on my channel. And hey, you know, gaming would be one thing, but I'm so lazy. Oh, that's pretty. That's pretty good. With the absinthe floating on top, I get a really strong absinthe flavour, which I'm a fan of it. Oh, miscalculation. You're saying the UK said loot boxes aren't gambling? Because I know some jurisdictions were saying they were going to ban loot boxes because it was getting kids hooked on gambling, essentially. Yeah, you might not be able to convert it, the winnings, to cash, but the games that had loot boxes that you had to pay to open, that was what was, and kids were getting suckered into it. That was a few jurisdictions were saying they were going to ban them. Tomorrow, if Johnson, Trump, and Morrison were drowning and had to save one, and I'd be like, I'm assuming, hopefully it's in the ocean, so it's like yeah, maybe just here in Port Phillip Bay and St Kilda, I would just have some fish and chips and just sit on the shore, eating my fish and chips, going, what? What are you saying? No, I can't help you. You'd become dependent on charity if I helped you. You have to help yourself. You have to help yourself. I'd just be making you dependent if I helped you. This folks actually think loot boxes is like the kids token gambling in arcades. That is true. Those various games in arcades where you were trying to get tickets and tokens for prizes, those are basically gambling. Kaiju, so if you were forced to, it'd be Bojo. Here's the pretense of giving you oh, if I was forced to, look, probably Scummo because he can do the least damage to the world. He can potentially do a lot of damage to Australia, but I'll take one for the team and say I think both Johnson and Trump stand to do much more damage to the world at large. Whereas Scummo can do a lot of damage to Australia, but less. Oh god! Even as I say it, I'm starting to think, no, I think he can. Maybe Johnson. Definitely not Trump. My initial thought was save Scummo because I think he's less capable of doing damage to the world, but his refusal to do anything about climate change and I don't know. God, the more I think about it, the more it becomes a line ball between Scummo and Johnson. Because although Johnson's a fucking scumbag, all the alternatives to him are scumbags as well. But yeah, not that we'd get any. God, if Scummo died, we'd probably get Dutton. Jesus, that'd be a nightmare. Maybe I should say Scummo. Yes, I think Jacinda Ardern has a lot of strengths as a prime minister. Ooh, I hadn't heard that, Miss Foxification, saying we're getting a new US military base in Australia. I had not heard that. Um, I used to, in my youth, we were always talking about the military bases in Australia, the surveillance system at Pine Gap and Narunga, and how the American warships would come into our harbours. I haven't really heard talk about any increased US presence. Oh, wow. Marines. The US is spending 300 million to build a facility in Northern Territory to launch the region. Oh, that must be to put the wind up China, I guess. Because yes, China periodically flexes their muscle on waterways, which are basically trade routes in the South Pacific, where there's no really settled jurisdiction. And you get places like China and Japan and Korea arguing. And I mean, yeah, the US isn't physically here, but they claim right of passage in some of the waterways. Yeah, no, if the US was going to do something in the Northern Territory, I'd assume that's to give the finger to China. And yes, you're right, Ms. Foxification, that has the potential to damage our trade with China. Ainsley put it to me the other day, like, you know, could I ever see an Australian government accepting closer ties with China over the US was in Australia's interests? You know, could I ever see any Australian government choosing China over the US? My thought was no, because they're fucking gutless. And it wouldn't matter, no matter how solid the economic or social or political argument was for favouring China over the US. No Australian government would ever do it because they're gutless and they've spent too many years building up the xenophobia against non-white nations to choose a non-white nation over a white nation. They're just too fucking gutless. And I'm not saying there is at the moment a particularly compelling case to like choose China over America as a trading partner or a military partner or a political partner. But if there was some incident where any rational objective person would look at it and say it obviously makes more sense to align with China over this than to align with the US, no Australian government would do it because they're too fucking gutless. I find very little to disagree with you there, Ms. Foxification. The idea that we get away from the US because they're a dying superpower acting in an extremely volatile manner. We should not be supporting their imperialistic demands on the world. I find nothing to disagree with there, but I'm not in control of the government. So the question that was put to me, would I ever see an Australian government siding with China over the US? And I say no, because they're just all gutless. Dr. Palmer, how close are we to World War III? Oh, not very. But then again, shit could happen to change that fucking overnight. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in the 80s where we all thought we were going to die in a nuclear war started between USSR and USA. Now, on all the indicators that were important to us in the 80s, the risk has gone down considerably. But there are other risk elements now and much more volatile elements. So if you ask me today, are we close to World War III? I'd say no, but something could come out of the blue like that, change things overnight. Some escalation between China and the US, some escalation between North Korea and somewhere in the world. You know, some escalation between the US and Iran. Israel fire a nuke at Saudi Arabia. I mean, there are so many volatile things that could happen, that while just looking at the risk factors, I don't think we're close to anything happening. But it's so volatile, and unforeseen risk, or previously thought under control risk could explode out of control very quickly. And that's the other one, misclassification. Accidents happen. We've been close to nuclear war many times. From my understanding, at least twice, we were saved at least twice by someone in Russia and once by someone in the US. I think I even said this, we had this conversation in the last live stream, that the person who was in control of launch got signals from their system that said, we're under attack, and according to the rules, they should have launched, but they just looked and went, that doesn't look right. And they didn't launch, even though the indications from the system told them they should launch. They just went, I don't think so. And they didn't launch, and they were right. So, and those are just the ones we know about. But yeah, that was one of the other things that worried me growing up in the Cold War, an accident. Because the more complex system gets, the more destructive weapons that exist. I mean, what, prior to the nuclear age, what's the worst thing that could happen? You could deploy some troops to the wrong area, you could bomb the wrong city, which would be bad, but not catastrophic. But the nuclear age just brought in catastrophic, like species ending errors. And it's like, oh my God, I don't think humans are smart enough to manage this, quite honestly. But yeah, just the ones I've read about, there were at least 3 incidents, 2 in Russia and 1 in the US, where the person in control of a launch got indications from their systems that they were under attack and they should be launching, but they just looked at it and went, oh, that does not look right. And they didn't launch, and they were right. There was an error in the system. Just it's really hard to be sure that the only nuclear weapons have kept us from war. The thing is, it's impossible to know. Certainly, that was the ideology pushed by both the USSR and USA, that mutually assured destruction thing, like nobody can start anything because everyone would get wiped out if they did. And, well, in their defense, nothing happened. Gecko, you had to go away for a while, but you're back. Good. Oh my God, Dr. Obama, Reagan was a piece of shit. Reagan was garbage on so many levels. But again, see, here's the thing: Reagan defenders will go like, "Well, he didn't take any shit from the Soviets, and and they eventually, because of actions that happened when he was in charge, the Soviet Union collapsed, and we all lived happily ever after." And it's like, I don't think it's that simple, but I can't prove it isn't, actually. So, let him have it. But no, Reagan was just a horrible bigot, and economically he was terrible. Refused to even acknowledge the AIDS crisis was happening. Didn't say the words for ages. No. Reagan was shit. Yes, Safa. The continuing tensions between India and Pakistan. I forgot that. That's another one. Project Redfoot. Yes. Trickle down Reaganomics. Yes. Oh my God. Reagan economics were fucking terrible. But yeah, socially he was terrible. And he was so adversarial towards the USSR. We always felt like he was just playing this game of brinkmanship that was going to get us all killed. It was a really disconcerting time to be growing up, thinking these fucking idiots were going to get us killed. Oh, I remember that one, Redfoot. 666, six letters. Ronald Wilson Reagan. Yes. And he teamed up with Margaret Thatcher, of course. Thatcher was probably even more right wing and bellicose than Reagan was, quite honestly. They were quite the pair. Well, that's the argument. The USSR collapsed economically, but like the Reagan fans say, well, the US actually sort of pushed them into that economic collapse by outspending them militarily. The Russians desperately tried to keep up and bankrupted themselves. I don't agree, but I also can't disprove it. So, got to give them that. I can't disprove it. So, yeah, there's all kinds of weird shit. Justin, you want to move back to Melbourne? Should you take a contract position in Melbourne, quit your permanent position here? Well, I do contract work, so I'm quite well disposed to contract work. But I mean, that's a difficult decision you're going to have to make for yourself, I think. Oh my God, yeah, Dr. Obama, the Thatcher and the miners' strike, that was evil as fuck. And yeah, the Tories tried to say we should all be sad when Thatcher died, but yes, the mining communities had parties. Yes. Oh yeah, no, US foreign policy generally is fucked. Absolutely fucked. That's fun one, Miss Foxcation. Moon landing deniers say space race was never about getting to the moon. It was just an effort to bankrupt Russia. Nice. Safi, you are correct. Melbourne is expensive in different ways. Sydney's more expensive, and Sydney's more difficult to live in. Melbourne is easier to live in than Sydney. But yeah, both Sydney and Melbourne, I think, are among the top 10 most expensive cities in the world to live in, which always surprised me. Do a little search. Most expensive cities. 7 most expensive. Copenhagen, Zurich, Osaka, Paris, Seoul, New York, Tel Aviv, and Switzerland. Top 10 most expensive. Top 10 most expensive cities. Where's the list? Why do websites suck so much? So 10th is Los Angeles, and then Tel Aviv. And it was Los Angeles, Tel Aviv, New York, Copenhagen. I didn't know Copenhagen was so expensive. Seoul, Osaka, Geneva, Zurich, Hong Kong, Paris, Singapore. Okay, so Sydney and Melbourne aren't there, which it never made sense to me when I saw Sydney and Melbourne on most expensive cities lists. Because that never made sense to me. Wait, so here's a BBC list, most expensive. Okay, so most expensive: Singapore, Paris, Hong Kong, Zurich, Geneva, Osaka, Seoul, Copenhagen, New York, Tel Aviv. Okay, well, that makes sense to me because I never understood uh, that when they showed up on my screen. Melbourne still tends to be near the top of most livable. This list has Vienna as the most livable, Melbourne, Osaka, Calgary, Sydney, Vancouver, Tokyo, Toronto, Copenhagen, Adelaide. 3 Australian cities in the top 10. There you go. Ooh, 10 least livable. This is fun. Damascus in Syria. That makes sense. Dhaka in Bangladesh. Yeah. Lagos, Nigeria. Karachi, Pakistan. Port Moresby, New Guinea. Yeah. Harare, Zimbabwe. Tripoli, Libya. Douala, Cameroon. Algiers, Nigeria. Dakar, Senegal. Yeah, those all make sense. Jesus. Justin, I don't think Canberra is near as expensive as Sydney and Melbourne. Um, Depending what you're rating, of course, but yeah. Yeah, so if you're at regional cities tend to be cheaper but have less services. Also, pay rates tend to um, be lower in regional areas. So I couldn't earn as much money if I went to a regional area. Or maybe I could. There are specialized skills that they maybe find hard to get in country areas. Maybe I could go to a regional area and make a lot of money and kill myself because I grew up in the country and never want to go back there. That's just the way it is. Yeah, some people love the country. The majority of my family still lives in the country. Half my family still lives in Dubbo, where I grew up, but just not me. Not for me. No, 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 no. Unfortunately, Mrs. Angry doesn't want to live anywhere in a country town because she lived in London for ages. So as far as she's concerned, Melbourne's a country town. Um, so that's good. We're very spoiled by the lifestyle here, just being able to go out and have a good time and have diversity. Um, just one of the things, on top of them just being horrible, horrible assholes, these white supremacists, the ones, arguing for a white ethno state, fuck, that would suck. That would suck so much. Like, could you imagine how much poorer the entertainment, the food, uh, clothing? Could you imagine how much poorer everything would be in a country that only allowed white people? I mean, I like white people. I'm a white people, okay? I've got nothing against white people, but this idea of a white ethno state does my head in. I am not giving up the food, the entertainment, the just the diversity of the people and the cultural opportunities. I'm not giving that up at all. No, Gecko, South Africa did not have a white ethno state as much. They had the apartheid. The white minority maintained control of all the power for a long time. You kind of technically they did have a white ethno state, I guess, actually. But because they were a white minority, were holding the black majority in repression by force, wasn't really sustainable. But so I'm not so much Anglo-Saxon, more Celtic, Scots-Irish background. Um, so Anglo-Celtic more than Anglo-Saxon. Um, uh, yes, and the fact that my family comes from like the North Island and north of Scotland, a bit of Muddy Boy and a bit of Viking in there as well. Um, because the Vikings ravaged that part of the British Isles so many times. Um, It's also making a joke about an English restaurant. Imagine the cuisine. There was a sketch comedy series. Oh god, this was ages ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago. And the core cast in this sketch comedy show is a British sketch comedy show called Goodness Gracious Me. Uh, the core cast were all children of migrants from the subcontinent, India and possibly Pakistan as well. Um, but they were born and grew up in England, but their parents were migrants, and a lot of the sketches were about their experience, the experience of being first generation, growing up in England, and all the complexities of that. And there was one sketch I always remember was hilarious. This drunk group of young Indians going out to an English restaurant, because what always happens in England, drunk English people going to an Indian restaurant for a curry, and they always fuck it up. And just the layers of the jokes they put in, for a start, they they ordered far too much food, uh, and then one of the girls who's there is drunk, who's trying to sort of flirt with the waiter who had a name tag on, and like one of the guys, he said something negative to the waiter, and she goes, "Don't pick on him. He's my friend, aren't you?" And she looks at his name tag and says, "Hamesh. Hamesh is my friend." And the guy says, "It's pronounced James." And she's going, Jamish. Yes, that's what I said. And he goes, no, James. And he goes, yes, Jamish. It's great. Adele, hello. And I'm trying to think, my favorite thing in it was uh, someone saying like they need to be careful what they order because their stomachs weren't really suited to this English food. And this one drunk guy goes, no, no, not me. I can take it. Give me the blandest thing on the menu. What's the blandest thing you have? And one of the others, oh no, no, please, nothing too stodgy. Oh, I had an English last week and I didn't go to the toilet for days. And he's going, no, 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 I can take it. I can take it. Yeah, give me what's the blandest thing you have on the menu? And the waiter's going, oh, scampi, that's quite bland. Yes, a big plate of scampi. And it was basically, it was beautifully done. They were just every drunk English bloke going into an Indian restaurant, except they were drunk Indian blokes going into an English restaurant. Oh god, it was good. But yeah, a lot of the jokes in that show were also at their parents' expenses. I do remember one because they grew up with their parents doing this thing. Like their parents loved England. Their parents worshipped England. They wanted to be English more than anything. And, they're going to be more English than the English. And they were always confused when white English didn't accept that. And there's one where a group of them is, they're in the English countryside and they've stopped at a quaint English pub and people are being a bit hostile to them and they don't know why because we're very English. We're very English. We'd like some tea, thank you. We're very English. And they're trying desperately to get on the side of these white English people who don't really like them that much, and they're getting a bit desperate and they're fighting a losing battle. And then, just at a critical moment where it's about to get out of control, a black guy comes into the pub, and all the Indians go, oh, fuck, thank God. Because the black guy takes the pressure off because the racists are more racist against black guys than they are at Indians. It's just, yeah, yikes. Gecko, you think I might enjoy Real Actors Read Yelp on YouTube? Not always the same gender as the writers. That does sound pretty good, actually. Justin, have I seen jokes where a comedian calls a Chinese takeaway and an Indian takeaway, puts them on the same line thinking they're ordering food? I've seen people try and do that type of thing. I just don't like prank calls. You instantly reminded me. I remember Hamish and Andy doing that. And I almost never listen to commercial radio, but I happened to be listening to them one day, and they did it with florists. They got two different florists on the line, like they were trying to um, uh, get them to think that they started talking to one florist, then they started talking to the other one, and then they connected them and tried to make it go away. And it didn't work. And I just fucking hate prank calls, basically. It is low. Prank calls are low comedy. Seeing the lag is very slow. I'm going to try it. I'll see how long it takes. I go 1, 2, 3. Wow, it's like 2 seconds. That is really slow. I mean, quick. What am I saying? Normally it's 10 seconds, and it's like 2, 3 seconds. That's wild. It is like usually normally 10 seconds, and it's about 2 seconds at the moment. That's wild. Ooh, jeez. Don't know what Australia and the internet is doing us proud tonight. It's normally such a pain, but that's really wild. Yeah, I'm really glad you pointed that out, Gecko, because I kind of thought the chat was closer than normal. But I just did a little test and it was only about 2 or 3 seconds. Wow. Sorry, out of context, Justin, that comment is wild. I've heard it being done with sex workers. I've heard of lots of things being done with sex workers. Okay, I've heard Tube Bar Red's prank calls. No, I'm actually not sure what that sentence means. But yeah, I just don't like prank calls. Uh, yeah, what have I seen recently that was funny that I did enjoy things? Oh, okay, Justin, prank calls, sex workers. I actually thought you meant prank calls, but just out of context, your comment, I actually found quite humorous. I quite enjoyed it. The original prank calls. Oh, what are the old school like Jerky Boys? Jerky Boys are like from early 90s, and they got a movie deal out of their prank calls. And I remember one of my favorites, the Rubber Bandits, did prank calls when they were in their teens. Prank calls. I mean, there's a huge pedigree of prank calls. Obviously, I was listening to a podcast the other day, and the uh, there's a guy. He's on some British radio station, so it's basically interviews. And I tend to enjoy podcasts that are interviews. Depends who it is. This was reasonably good, and he was talking in one of them about his radio show, and he was saying he's going like there was stuff like in the 70s where someone would be doing like a BBC radio thing, and Peter Cook, like legendary comedian Peter Cook, would call in on BBC talkback shows and prank call them. And Peter Cook was a madman, and he was a very good improviser, and he was probably drunk or high when he did it. But I mean, it was just fascinating. This guy was just saying Peter Cook used to call BBC call-in shows and prank call them, like in the 70s. It's like wild. Oh god, that was an ugly one, wasn't it, Justin? That prank call about the Royals a few years ago that made a nurse commit suicide. Yeah, that fucking bloody put prank calls to bed a bit. Oh god, yes, Project Redfoot, crank yankers. Cry themselves to sleep wishing they were the Jerky Boys. I remember crank yankers as well. Didn't like them. Didn't like them at all. Dr. Obama, Chaz from The Chaser did the same thing. I know. This is wild. Speaking of Peter Cook and improvising, has anyone ever heard the Derek and Clive recordings? For those who don't know, they're they're comedy classics. It's Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. They were doing, and the folklore goes, they were doing something in a recording studio, and they got it done, and had hours left. Like they were so professional, they got their work done really quickly, and they had hours left paid for in this studio time. And so they just started riffing and doing stupid bullshit with the tape recorder running, and they got really drunk. And they were just saying the most vile, terrible things, and they were just riffing on them. And they're just like, and we can't release this. This is terrible. But somehow the tapes got loose, and so the folklore goes. Peter Cook and Dudley Moore didn't know these tapes were in the wild, and these tapes used to just get passed around hand to hand. And some years after they'd recorded them, they found out, like, they were talking to like one of the big rock bands of the day, and they were like, "Oh my god, you guys are so funny, that Derek and Clive stuff." And Peter Cook's just going, "How the fuck do you know about-" "Oh, we've got a tape." "How have you got a tape?" And these tapes were being bootlegged and just passed around by hand. So then Peter Cook and Dudley Moore went, "Fuck, people like it. Let's do it." And they just went into a studio and got shit-faced drunk and riffed on all this comedy stuff. And there's 2 or 3 albums you can get of Derek and Clive tapes. And I mean, they're a bit hit or miss because they're really fucking drunk. And they're trying to be as vile and offensive as they can. And I forget exactly what Dudley Moore said, because it's weird. When Dudley Moore hit the big time, he had a fairly squeaky clean image. Like he did that film 10 with Bo Derek and Arthur, where he was the alcoholic millionaire. But Derek and Clive were so filthy. I forget exactly what he said, but they're doing this stuff and they're trying to one up each other. And Dudley Moore just says something terrible and he just wants to keep going. And Peter Cook's just talking over him, going, "No, thank you, sir. That's enough, sir. Thank you. That's enough. No more of that." And to have actually pushed Peter Cook, who was just so out there, to push him to the point where it's like, "No, dude, you can't say that. I'm not associating with you if you say that. Stop saying that." And it's hilarious because Dudley Moore just wants to keep going, and Peter Cook's just talking over him, going, "No, no, I don't. No more of that today. Thank you, sir. No, sir. No." It's just like, oh my god. Peter Cook was the one with the wild man reputation, and Dudley Moore had like the cute guy, this sort of squeaky clean reputation. But I forget what it was, but he said something so awful that Peter Cook's just talking over and going, "No, no, no more of that. No, we're done. That's finished for now." And and they would sing stupid songs, and they would just do the dumbest stuff. And it's funny because it's just so stupid. It's absolutely stupid. And it's just funny because it's stupid. Yes, Gecko, Peter Cook was the awesome priest in Princess Bride. Marriage! Marriage is what brings us together today. That was not long before Peter Cook died, I think. Um, and I think he died, he was not that old, he wasn't young, but it was like a life of alcohol and drug abuse. he died somewhat before his time, I think. So, died in 95. Oh, he's before his 60th birthday. So he was born in 37. So he's only 58 when he died. So yeah, he died before his time, and I honestly think it's because he fucking years of alcohol and drug abuse. Safa, where's Mimsy? That is a good question. I just heard her a second ago, actually. Maybe I can get her to come in the 5 minutes before I go. Just a sec. Oh, where are we? Is she out here? No, can't see her. No, I thought I heard her just outside the door, but don't know where she is. Oh well. Princess Bride is one of my all-time favorite movies. Now I want to watch it again. I haven't watched it for a little while. Princess Bride is such a beautiful movie. Like even the As You Wish thing, the finishing thing where Peter Falk leaves little what's his name saying "As You Wish" just brings a tear to my eye. It's just great. Oh, Gecko, you made a soundboard with Samurai Jack. For people using pre-call, Samurai Jack would be good. Yes, okay, gently. Oh my god, The Princess Bride is just so good. It's so funny. Just a million quotable lines. And not least, man, the one I'll always remember is because Inigo Montoya. Hello, my name's Inigo Montoya. You killed my father, prepare to die. When he just fucking kills the guy, he's got the guy completely at his mercy. And rather than doing something noble and heroic and saying, you're not worth it, he fucking kills the guy. He's got the guy completely at his mercy. The guy's unarmed and begging for his life. And he just goes, and the guy says, I'll give you anything you want. And he just runs him through and says, I want my father back, you son of a bitch. And it's just like, fucking hell. Oh my God. That's so full on. But yes, The Princess Bride is just endlessly quotable and it's an absolutely beautiful movie. And I love it to bits. I'm trying to think, one of my top 5 movies is Princess Bride, Jesus of Montreal, which is a weird French Canadian film, but I really love it. What else? I think The Godfather is such a well-made film. It's one of my top ones. And honestly, I'd go with recent ones like Mad Max Fury Road. I love that fucking movie to death. That is such a good movie. And I don't know what else. What else would be in my top 5? There's a whole bunch. God, probably even like like one of the new Star Wars films, either The Force Awakens or Rogue One, could be in my top 5. I love the new Star Wars films. I know not everyone likes The Last Jedi, but I fucking love it. I think it's great. And I know not everyone who dislikes it is a misogynist, racist fuckwit. It's just weird that all the misogynist, racist fuckwits hate it. But I know completely good people aren't that into it. But I love the new Star Wars films. Can't wait for The Rise of Skywalker. Fuck, I want to see what they do to round this story out. I'm so hanging out for that, honestly. But yeah, oh, porgs are awesome, Nug. I reckon that was the best thing. For those who don't even know why the porgs were there, it's because the island where they shot that stuff with Luke is covered with puffins, and they could have either digitally removed the puffins altogether or turned them into something else. And they turned the puffins into porgs. It was great. I love it so much. Oh, Adele, if you ever get to Melbourne again, we'll sit down together and watch the Star Wars movies. I have them all on disc. Um, Even the solo one was okay. I don't hate the solo one, but uh, it's nowhere near as good as Rogue One, Force Awakens, or Last Jedi. But yeah, again, this is just personal taste. If someone who's not an arsehole doesn't like the Last Jedi, that's cool. But taste is a different thing. Uh, but yeah, well, I wait to hear why people don't like it because sometimes people really give them away. Oh, do I have an unremastered version of Star Wars? I have a box set on DVD that has an unremastered version and a remastered version of the original trilogy. But there's all this obsession about apparently so many different cuts of Star Wars were released on home video. There was differences in what was released on VHS and what was on Laserdisc, and there were a couple versions released on DVD and whatnot. But I've got one that's mostly the original version on DVD because it was a great box set that has both, unremastered versions and remastered versions. But some people say, no, that's actually not the theatrical release. It's a slightly different cut to the theatrical release. I did have a friend who actually had the laser discs, and I kind of wanted to steal them from him. He had a laser disc player and the laser discs, the original Star Wars trilogy. And for those who don't even know what laser discs are, they were 12-inch discs. They were the size of vinyl albums, and they were a format that never took off. But they're quite good quality, but they're about the same quality as DVD, but they're on 12-inch discs, the size of vinyl albums. Oh God, Gecko, you got 4 or 5 dozen laser discs. That's so cool. Yes, Miss Foxcassion, they can warp. They're that big. They're subject to various things. But uh, oh no, geez, Kaiju, laser discs were way after VHS. Laser discs were mid late 90s, whereas VHS was 80s. But oh yeah, no, I'm about to sign up for Amazon Prime Video, and I do want to watch The Boys. I've heard a few people saying The Boys is incredibly full on Prime Video. The Boys is a comic book, and it's basically about uh, superheroes who get a bit out of control, and there are some tough guys who are meant to bring the superheroes back in line. Um, it kind of looks good, and I've heard people say, it's pretty, "Oh God, yes, Mega Leech Expanse season 4," but I haven't seen season 3, so I'm going to sign up to Prime. What's on Prime that I want to watch? The Boys, Expanse season 3, Good Omens, American Gods, probably a few other things like the Marvelous Miss Maisel, and there's a couple of other things on Prime that look really good. So yeah. Oh yes, Adele, The Man in the High Tower. I saw that was on there. High Castle, that's it. Sorry, no, got it right. The Man in the High Castle, yes. Oh yes, Gecko, City of Lost Children. I remember that movie. That was fucking. That was that French duo who also did Alien Resurrection, which a lot of people don't like, but I really like Alien Resurrection. Of the Alien films, the original Alien is good. The sequel, Aliens, is great. Alien 3, I think I have to re-watch because I haven't watched it in like forever. Um, but Alien Resurrection, I really like. Was done by those French auteurs, and I know a lot of people don't like it, but I really like Alien Resurrection. I heard, incidentally, Alien 3 was a weird thing because there were all these different versions of a script for it, and apparently, famed cyberpunk author William Gibson wrote a script, and you can get that on Audible. They've done it as like a radio play. They've used William Gibson's script for Alien 3, which was never made, and they've done it like a radio play, and apparently it's really good. Outdated farm equipment. Am I a fan of Alien vs Predator? No. I don't look. It's mindless entertainment. Not a fan though. Same as the more recent Alien films. I don't hate them, but I'm not a fan of them. Gecko, I've got Fantastic Planet on disc because I saw Fantastic Planet at the fucking drive-in when I was this was like in the 70s. It's this weird fucking French sci-fi animation. Oh my god. If you want weird shit, Fantastic Planet is this weird as fuck French sci-fi animation from the 70s. Holy fuck, it's weird. I gotta go too, actually. Project Redfoot. You saw a tick attach itself to your dog. Oh my god. You gotta fix that up. Oh yeah, no, Gecko. I saw Fantastic Planet. I was a kid. I saw Fantastic Planet as a kid at the drive-in. So you can imagine how much it fucking did my head in. But I found it on disc a couple of years ago. Um, and it is really good. Fantastic Planet is fucking weird. Um, but yeah. Oh my god, I've run over time because I'm really getting into it. Oh, that's a good one. Okay, thanks, Farm Equipment. Rising Deep is a sci-fi horror. I haven't seen it. Good night, one and all. Thank you so much for your God, I'm so fucking tempted to just keep going and for another fucking 6 hours and like not go to work tomorrow. But that would be bad because I'm a contractor and I won't get paid if I don't go to work. So I better go to bed. I better get some sleep. Better go to bed. No, because I'm working in the suburbs at the moment. Because a contractor, you work all over. Most of my jobs are in the city, in the CBD, but occasionally I end up with one in the suburbs. And currently, I'm working in the suburbs, but they have an office in the city, and I have to see someone in the city office tomorrow. So I'll be working in the city. So I think I'll get something really decadent for breakfast and for lunch in the city. We'll have to see. Okay, we need to do show notes. Sure. What are show notes? We'll make a note to talk about it next time. But fill me in. What are show notes? It feels like it means something, that term, but I don't actually know what it means. So. And I finished my drink, and I'm going to bed. I think I'll take a paracetamol before. A quick log of what happened on the stream. Oh my god, someone else would have to do that. I'm not together enough to do that. Anyway, take care of yourself, one and all. Thank you so much for joining me. As per usual, I had a really good time hanging out with you, and I hope to do it again soon. But I will say bye for now.